Our next guest, Namrata, reminds me of an expert mixologist who knows exactly which premium ingredients to blend for the perfect enterprise cocktail. With a dazzling career spanning IBM, Salesforce, SAP, American Express, she spent over 2 decades shaking up the tech and financial services industry with her unique recipe for success. At IBM, she's currently serving high value financial clients with the precision of a master bartender after mixing up impressive results at companies like CleverTap and managing global accounts for the Tata Group. What makes her special isn't just her impressive resume, it's how she combines strategic brilliance with genuine connection that leaves everyone feeling like a VIP. When she's not crafting winning partnerships in Mumbai's dynamic business scene, Namrata brings the same energy and flair that turns every professional interaction into something memorable. From premium American Express cards to luxury concierge services at Quintessentially, she knows the secret ingredient is always understanding exactly what the clients need, often before they do. We're absolutely thrilled to welcome Namrata to Sales School today. Welcome, Namrata.
Thank you, Karthik. And my God, what an introduction! I really feel so good. And is this what you usually do to get people feel excited about themselves?
This was easy. You've heard my introduction. Can you describe Namrata when she's not working?
I think when I'm not working, I'm pretty much the way I am when I'm at work. I'm like a very people's person, right? So I derive energy from people. So I like a very action oriented situation, even outside of work, which is catching up with friends, catching up with family, trying to figure out what's new food scene. Where I live in Bombay. So the concert thing, this is like our new thing. I think as we're
Yeah.
getting older, we want to do much more cooler things between me and my husband. So I think I'm pretty much very similar to what I'm at work. There's really never a dull moment unless I want to get some moments of pure bliss and zen. When I truly want to zen out myself, I'm very charged all day long. So it's quite similar to how I'm at work.
The Namrata outside work is the Namrata inside work. Okay, now let's take you back to a little bit of nostalgia. Tell us about your first job with Times Internet,
Yes.
where you ran events. It seems like a fun gig.
It was a really fun gig. It's a very fun gig, especially because that's my first job right after college. And usually, when you join Times of India, you join their response business, which is their ad sales business.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, I joined India Times, which is the Times Internet Limited business, and they used to run these large corporate events. So if you remember back in the day, there used to be, which we now obviously see 20 to a dozen CIO events. Economic Times used to be running those events, which were very niche. So you would, have the audience of like speaking to the finance minister. There would be like these power breakfasts where all these top CEOs, CIOs of the country would come. Because Times of India is a very, very well known brand in the media industry. So I would think the 2 years that I was at Times Internet, I was completely awestruck and doe-eyed, roaming around, figuring out. I was doing everything from being an intern, selling sponsorships, meeting clients, meeting delegates, meeting these high-profile people, getting to travel for work, something I'd never done. So, and also in a very strange way, getting assimilated in the entire process of work life, right? It's not like a very deliberate way where you like get up in the morning and you operate these hours and say, okay, now I'm like this professional. It was a very organic, soft assimilation because you were doing the kind of a job that you're doing where you learn every day. And events business in general is extremely dynamic, right? So there is a lot of firefighting that happens, and the youngest person, which was me, has to do many things in a day. So it was really fun. And fortunately, I have friends from that time and now as well, and we meet and we discuss about all the horrible mistakes we made back in the day. But they're really, really fun times, right? So yeah, India Times was a fun time part of my life. I used to get to attend a lot of media parties.
Nice.
Just great perks because there was no money, but these were great perks of the job. So yeah, very nice time.
Lovely, and I think your first jobs always leave such an impression on you, right? And I think the getting into that process of meeting the right kind of people, having fun, being able to travel, I think must have been a great initiation into the sales
and
Agility.
the ability to just, make mistakes,
Yeah.
because you're inevitably making mistakes. You don't know anything, right? There is no past to tell you that this is the right way to do it. So actually, and I know this now after 20 years, that there are leaders around you who take people in when we're very young. They're very kind if they let you make those mistakes, and they don't point those out to you because they know that you literally don't know nothing, right?
Yeah.
So the chance and the ability to keep making mistakes is one thing I think was so wonderful, that you'll be like mistake, and you'll actually say things like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know," and they look at you like, "Yeah, yeah, of course you don't know, right?" So those are, and I know a lot of people have had very hard times in their first job. For
Yeah.
me, it has been such a positive impact that it kind of became a benchmark for every other job that I was going to take in the future. So it kind of became like a stepping stone that, okay, this is what a good job or a good stint in an organization in a large corporate world looks like.
Your first job kind of shapes the way you would want to become like a leader, right? If you have a great boss or a great organization, it's almost like a milestone. When you get there, this is what you want to give as an experience to someone
Yes,
coming in.
absolutely. Absolutely. So
Lovely.
yeah, fun times.
So we'll cut now to 2011, and you've just got a master's from the very reputed LSC. You've But you've made a decision to get back into sales with Gartner, and I think your master's was in marketing, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, right?
that's right.
So walk us through that. How did that happen, and why sales? Getting back into sales with Gartner.
I think the decision was prompted by two reasons primarily. So I was working with American Express for a very long time. In fact, my job after Times Internet was American Express,
Okay.
and it was during that stint. It's a very special stint because that's where I met my husband also, and that was
Okay.
actually the stint that decided my fate. I moved to Mumbai right after I got married, which was in
Right.
that stint only. So I think
Okay.
I was at that point in my career, which was around, I'd been working for close to what, 7, 8 years. And I was at a point in my career where I kind of was lost and confused in terms of what I should be doing next. See, growing up, at least in the household that I grew up in, there was not much direction in terms of educational pursuits. So I never really did a full fledged MBA, or there was any push in the direction that, okay, you should like do CAT and do all of those things. I think
Yeah.
that understanding came to me much later. I think maybe it's my husband's influence, or just generally the gang that we used to hang out, that I started feeling that maybe possibly, and may not be the right term, but I felt I was very undereducated.
Okay.
And there was a lot of peer pressure that I felt around me because everybody was just so smart. And they were just not smart because they were street smart, but there was this huge reliance of pedigree, that, oh, pedigree is really important, right? And I remember, because I was already married and I was living in Bombay, it was very clear that I'm not going to be looking at doing a 2 years resident program, right? It's A, very expensive, and B, I was not cut out to do it, right? I didn't want to be away for that long kind of situation. So I think because I was applying in multiple places, I applied to NCR, I applied to other places, and I got through where I did.
Yeah.
At around the same time, there was this whole conversation about tech being like how sales is very cool, tech becoming very, very cool, right?
Yeah.
People started getting into doing jobs in technology. And I remember lots of lectures around that time in London also about these big OEMs coming into place, whether it was Microsoft, Google, Salesforce came a few years later. But there was this whole thing about tech becoming very important.
Yeah.
Now, for me, the choice either was to get into like a consulting piece, which is strat consulting, where you typically would have your top like if there's a pyramid, there's a top strategy consulting firm, or they would be selling tech. And then there was this middle path called Gartner, right, which was more advisory, not consulting, not product tech selling. It was somewhere in the middle in terms of becoming a easy initiation into the world of
Yeah.
technology. And Gartner kind of came with no baggage in that sense that, oh, you should be in the tech industry, you should not have sold to tech companies. So that became like a natural choice because I think I had made up my mind while I was studying that I'm going to take up a career in tech, and that's where I'm going to be. But what will I do in tech and how will that happen? And during that time only, the Gartner recruiter got in touch with me. He spoke to me about a role. and it became like an easy way to come back to. The role was in Mumbai. It was aligned to what I want to do in tech. So that's pretty much how it happened.
Here's what I've taken away from it: your ability to spot trends. It was a great decision because that's where you've been now for
For a very long time.
yeah. I'm not gonna
Very, very long time.
about 15 years, I think, right? Like, I
Yes, and I
think
don't
for
think
you,
I'm going to be anywhere else but here. I mean, wherever, whatever is going to happen is just going to be adding on to being in this space only.
just picking on what you said, it was Gartner who gave you that chance, and a little bit about how Gartner hires, right? Um, even for someone like me who's been a lawyer and been in procurement, Gartner welcomed certain kinds of people. So, what do you think Gartner or the hiring manager or the recruitment process saw in you that made that decision for them very easy?
I think for Gartner, particularly, the entire hiring process was more on attitude rather than actual skill. And what you brought into the table was more from the fact that how committed you are to this, how much fire you are, have how driven you are to make it happen, and how outcome focused you are. Right?
Yeah,
It really did not matter if you follow a structured sales process, or you understand technology, or you understand how the CIO network works, because these things we picked up while we were on the job. Nobody actually had to tell me, oh, CIO means chief information officer, this guy is responsible for managing tech, you are supposed to sell to this guy, versus CMO means that he is responsible for marketing. These things can be taught. The best thing about Gartner's hiring was that, are you driven, are you confident, are you going to go and get this and make this happen for you, and there's a huge reward at the end of it, so that you're going to make that reward happen for yourself. And
yeah.
attitude actually is everything from a hiring standpoint. So I think in that sense, Gartner's hiring of such a divergent group about how all of us came together, I have never seen that happen in any other organization, to be honest. I think a lot of people talk about being inclusive, and there's a lot of view about, let's say, getting diverse workforce, getting becoming more inclusive, get people who think differently from you. It's very, very important. And I think in Gartner, it is back in 2011, this was really the norm. You were
Yeah,
on also joined around the same time, right?
yeah.
So
2011 was when I joined.
it was really fun because you generally did not have a template of same people.
Yeah,
Everybody was so different from everyone else, and over the years we all became very uniform, but at the start of it we were all very different, and that's what I think helped us all get assimilated in a similar manner.
something very unique that I saw at that point of time. Although we were from so many different places, the way
Yes.
we reacted, the way we responded, the way we challenged ourselves and each other was very similar.
And there was always this competitive streak that was flowing in everybody's veins without actually calling it out, right? So you realize that you were actually in a very competitive world. It's not that just because, so it was almost like, especially around December time when winner circles were happening, right? That everybody knew, this one is 20K away, this one is 50K away. So it's a very healthy thing, right? If it you channel it the right way, it was very, very healthy. So I think we became really good salespeople, I would like to believe,
Yeah.
after spending that much time there.
Could you mention through your career there may have been some people who stood out and shaped the person you've become today? Could you talk us through some of them?
I think majority of those people came as forms of mentors from outside of my actual industry or actual jobs. So Vikrant Chaudhary, Rishi Arora, Vivek Belgavi, Pranav, my husband. I think if I think of them, these are the three, four people who I think want to have them as constant in my life forever, because I can still pick up the phone and talk to them and have a very candid conversation, and I expect them to give me very candid feedback. In their own ways, they have shaped my career. In their own ways, they've guided me to the true North Star. They've been salespeople without actually being called salespeople, because some of them work in consulting firms, some of them came from product, and some have just been great with people. So selling is about people want to buy from people. So these three, four come very natural to me the moment I think about people who've kind of shaped my career, definitely.
Lovely. We're just going to switch track a little bit, right? To all the people who look up to people like you on how they are shaping their career. What do you look for when you are hiring a salesperson?
I think exactly what I was taught back in the day when I got hired, which is traits. Good attitude. People need to be driven. I feel like if the person is not going during the interaction, if I realize that a person cannot be coached or is not willing to learn and is very set in his ways, I typically do not proceed with that candidate because we are in a very fluid situation. You could be hired for a role today, 3 months down the line, the company strategy changes and you're put into doing another role. So you have to have that agile bent of mind, right, in terms of being able to move around. I'm also very clear about the fact that humility is very important to me. I like to hire people who don't brag about their outcome so much, because then it's a good thing to have a chip on the shoulder, and you want superstars on your team. But I also want that people should work in a collaborative environment. So for me, it's very important that there's a certain level of humility they should operate on, and largely about how street smart you really are. We've been put into multiple situations, and depending how streets, and I ask them and I give them situations that, so tell me what's going to happen, how will you get this order out, what would you do in such a situation. I just basically want to gauge that how street smart the person is, to be able to come out of a tricky situation, not so much about the fact that he'll close a deal or not. I think we
Hmm.
all want closers, but I want to see how a person's mind works when he's stuck in a situation. So these are some of the things that go on in my mind when I'm speaking to a candidate, and I typically like to hire people basis that.
You started out with someone who is coachable,
Yeah,
someone who can communicate, and I think street smart is also about how quickly you respond to certain situations, how
exactly.
communicative you are. You mentioned humility, which is often something not big with salespeople, with sometimes the quote unquote sales bro culture that is always going around.
Yeah.
And so, if I were to ask you a question, and this always fascinates me, um, what is a hiring question you'd ask if you want to know if someone is coachable?
I actually ask a very real life situation that today I'm hiring you for a particular role. Uh, we come to know later that the team is dissolved, and now I have to shift you to another town, to another city. Uh, how will you make that change? What, to your mind, how would you make that change happen? How do you perceive that change to take upon you? And I think that is the question that gives me a very clear answer, because more often than not, I can sense hesitation. I can also sense the fact that the person wants to join a job for a particular role, and how important it is for him to just be in this particular role. So I actually ask a very real life situation, because this happens a lot, at least in my industry, right? That we hire, and it's actually a trend very commonly now that even if you're like applying for a job in large companies, we never specify what location you're hiring for. You
Hmm.
could be interviewing for any location in any role, and few months down the line, as things change, you could be moving out of those roles. So I actually asked them a real life situation question, just to get a sense of where their head is at, and how long are they going to be on this job and not run away once they come on board.
Interesting. We have a lot of people who listen in who are early on in their sales career, right? What advice would you give them?
Don't be so hard on yourself. It's fine. I think we set very unrealistic expectations of ourselves. We all want to be super achievers. We really go with the view that we will conquer the world, and then we tend to get disappointed because that's the nature of our job. You'll be super hit one day, and then for days together you'll be sitting on zero, and suddenly you realize that you don't know anything. So don't be hard on yourself. It will all fall into place. Focus on learning and focus on upping your skill. This is a skill level situation that you're in. You're hired because we believe that you can strongly contribute to the team, and we believe you'll be a great asset. But you will truly shine if you work on yourself without taking this whole mental pressure of being top of the leaderboard. I want to be the star and all of this. Work on your skill, make networks within the organization, outside the organization, work on your brand. I think that's the only advice I want to give everybody, because I've not done that for myself in the past. and it has been and I didn't have somebody to tell me this,
Yeah,
so it led to a very different life in sales, because you're not after you've done like very well, and when you hit rock bottom and numbers are not happening, it's only you who can get you out of yourself, right? If that makes sense. So that's the only advice I want to give somebody.
lovely. We're changing track now again. This is something we'd love to ask our all our guests. Do you think sales is cool?
100%. It's the most fulfilling. It is the coolest job. It is really putting yourself out there. It doesn't matter whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. It is also about forming deep relationships, great friendships. It is the most tangible, result oriented job that you can see, and there is a sense of satisfaction that you get at the end of the day, that you made this happen. And if you are the kind of person who loves a challenging life, and wants to take these challenges on, and a lot of people play sports and a lot of people do things to get the adrenaline going, sales is cool because it gets your adrenaline going. So
Lovely, lovely. Sales equals adrenaline. We will now ask you three or four quick rapid fire questions.
oh my god.
Some of them I've thought of like while we were talking over the last 20 minutes. So let's go. Are you ready?
Yes.
Pedigree or experience?
I think both. Pedigree sometimes helps to open doors, but it's your experience that will take you all along and help you build what you want to build. So,
Okay.
pedigree for door opening sometimes becomes crucial.
What is your favorite holiday destination?
Oh, so many. I think Italy would be my favorite holiday destination, purely because we went for a honeymoon back in 2008. And I also had one of my winner circle
Yes.
and just the food, just being in Italy, it's such a fun holiday, so much to see, so much to do. There's everything for everyone over there. So just for pure nostalgia also, I feel Italy will always be my favorite.
I have introduced you as an expert mixologist. What is your favorite cocktail?
These days I'm tripping on picante. Every single place I go, I order for it. I am obsessed with it. I have tried multiple variations of it. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it getting warmer so I can enjoy it even more. I really have to think about this. No, I think I invested in some property for my parents. I did not tell them about it till the time the purchase had happened. And I remember we had flown to Delhi and I told them that, we need to go someplace. And when they were there and the joy I saw in my parents' eyes, because it was so unexpected. It's not because I think the joy is not so much from the fact that the person can't afford it, or the fact that it's just a thing of, like I said, right, sales is so tangible, so your achievement is also tangible. So when you do a commission purchase like that, that itself is also tangible. And now I look up at I lost my dad 3 4 years back. Every time I think about that property, it just makes me feel so happy, because I remember my father's smiling face and my mother getting all like teary eyed, like how Punjabi moms are. So it'll always be one of those very, very special commission purchases.
Yeah, I think sometimes the work that you put in is maybe for yourself, but most often it is for the people around you.
Yeah, and I feel like it is so easy now to like things that we desired so much. And I think God has been so kind and grateful in that sense, that things you desired 10 years, 12 years ago become so common, and so it's become so mainstay in that sense, that only these feelings and only those emotions of purchases live by, with you for the rest of your life. So this is like one of those things, like it's a very emotional commission purchase.
Beautiful moment to end this lovely conversation, Namrata. I had a fabulous time chatting
Me
with you.
too. It was so fun.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Namrata, and looking forward to you seeing your success skyrocket.
And all the very best to you too. You and Soumya make sales cool.